everybody. Coach Mel here, back in the studio. We've had a little bit of a rough time at Melfit. As you guys know, Josh, the man behind the camera, unfortunately, his dad passed away a couple weeks ago, Josh. And it was very sudden. So if you're listening to this and you're part of the Melfit Army, Josh and I thank you for all your condolences. And we're just this week kind of trying to get back at it, right, Josh?
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for your support and your condolences. And I know it's been a rough year for a lot of people, and especially with COVID. So we are looking forward to a happy and healthy 2023. Thanks for tuning in today, whether you're listening to this or you're watching this on YouTube. Hopefully you're walking on a treadmill or running or working out, but we are super excited for this podcast. We had this scheduled, and sorry for having to push you out, and thanks for taking the time, but we have a very special guest here today. Jake Bustamante, who is a friend of mine. His parents are good friends of mine and my husband's, and I always knew I wanted to interview you. And since the day I met Jake, I knew that he was my tribe. So what I want to kind of do is give you a little bit of a backstory about how we know each other. So Jake's dad, Louie, is friends with my husband, Iggy, and they met each other through work, basically.
Yeah,
right?
work for the family. Work for the family.
Okay. So, Jake, you started coming around the last few years, I believe, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So, I instantly hit it off with you because you were into health and fitness.
Yeah.
So you came to use my scale. I think your dad asked if we could do food prepping.
Mm-hmm.
We had a food prep class with you. And you told me a little bit about your history in football. But we're going to kind of go through a little timeline with Jake so you can get a little bit of his backstory. Very, very interesting story. And what I was hoping for, too, from you is possibly a before picture and an after picture of you.
Oh, boy, you didn't put me like that.
I know, I know.
Like
that way people can see what a huge transformation we've had. So we always like to tell a story just so you guys can get to know Jake a little bit better. So we'll kind of do a little bit of timeline. We'll start at Jake's childhood, and we're going to kind of include football and health and fitness. So Jake, tell us a little bit about your upbringing and your family. You from here?
So, yeah, I'm from here, from Post Falls, Idaho. Lived here all my life. Stay with my mom and dad, Jennifer and Louie, my sister. Brother just recently got married. And live next to my G-Ma, so there every day supporting her.
Love it. Yeah.
That's pretty much it on
Love
that.
it. Yeah. A tight-knit Hispanic family.
Yeah.
We love it.
Very
Love
tight.
that you guys are. So, growing up, what was it like? Like, were you into sports? Were you an active kid?
Yeah, so growing up, I was into everything my dad was into. Like, there's no doubt about it. And growing up, I was, believe it or not, get to the other half of this story, but it was a normal childhood, Good looking little kid, nothing wrong with me, everything's good, playing 3 sports, just trying to be like my dad, kind of following his footsteps, and then hanging out with my grandma all the time. I was always with her, she'd always be spoiling me, but then that got to a point, took a little bit of a turn.
So as far as food, I know I'm half, my dad's Mexican, my mom's white, and of course my husband's from Mexico, so I kind of get the whole cuisine. Did that impact you as a child?
So, to be honest, the Mexican food wasn't really the issue. I went to the little preschool or whatever it was, and she would come pick me up every day. This is where it started.
Grandma?
Grandma used to come pick me up. I was normal, everything was good, and then she started picking me up from school, and it would be either a McDonald's run or it'd be coming home and eating some Mexican food that's just really not that good for you. But this happened maybe once a week.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you?
Oh, I was probably 7.
Okay.
I was probably 7.
Okay.
So up until that point, I thought everything was normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then it started doing these McDonald's runs, or just not healthy food for you, fast food, or coming
Mm-hmm.
home because it was convenient and
Mm-hmm.
easy. And I was a little kid, so I didn't know anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
So we started eating there, and then from that point on, I kind of noticed that the number on the scale starts to go up a little bit. And my mom would have me hop on the scale just randomly, just to check things out as far as that. And the number starts going up and up and up and up.
And how old are you when you start weighing yourself?
I was probably maybe 8, 9.
Okay, that's
so this
pretty
was
young.
This was after a year, but there wasn't really nothing behind it. It was just check the weight a little bit, and so the weight starts going up and up and up and up, and obviously you can start noticing it. I didn't notice it because usually just from experience, when you're a bigger person, you don't necessarily notice anything like that. You think you're perfect, but everybody else views you differently than you view yourself. So I didn't, I was kind of blinded. That's what they call it. And we'd have to go like to doctors on little doctor visits, just and they'd be like, well, your weight's going up. And I wasn't a very tall kid at the time, so they'd show me this little graph of like a height to weight ratio. My weight was just always from 8 on till maybe 12. My weight was just higher than what it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all just from eating the McDonald's and things like that. But then again, I didn't really know because I was just a kid. I wasn't fully into fitness at that time, and I didn't know what good eating was.
Mm-hmm.
It was, if it's food, I'll eat it. If it's bad for you, if it's good for you, it didn't, it didn't really matter. And it wasn't like I was gourting myself or just eating. It was just not eating the right things.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, that's kind of put me on that path. So fast forward a little bit to that. I'm 12, going into middle school, 13, 14, 15, 16. Those years of middle school, you don't really notice. You don't notice anything until people start, nicking at you or just, saying things about yourself. And you're kind of like, well, what are you talking about?
Like
Because you're
teasing,
blinded.
mean? Yeah.
So start teasing you, and, it got to a point where they wouldn't necessarily tease me like that. So I was kind of at a loss both ways, because at least if you get a little teasing, you could turn it around. But they wouldn't really tease me because I was cool with everybody because I played sports.
Okay.
So 6th, 7th, 8th grade, that's when I kind of started playing a little bit of sports, and I noticed things were starting to get difficult. And I'm like 5, 6. I probably broke 190 in 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
It was ridiculous. And again, I didn't really notice, you don't know, you're blinded.
Yeah.
And 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I wouldn't get made fun of, so it wasn't an issue. But in 7th and 8th grade, you can play basketball for the school. That was like the first time you could play school or play for your school. And everything started to get a little harder. Running was harder, keeping up with everybody was a little harder, and it was because I was big, and I didn't notice that till that point when it started affecting my sports, because up until that point I was all good. And you'd have football season right before basketball seasons, and I was like a little bowling ball out there running over these little kids, so I was like, oh, this is good, like I'm headed in the right direction. Nobody can take me down. And then it got to basketball, and I realized something was up.
Cardio strength.
Everything it was just bad. So that was kind of like not really my turning point, but that was kind of like my first little sign. And when you get to that point, it was hard for me to kind of turn it around a little bit. It wasn't something like I could just turn around in a day. And I'd sit there and research things because I was curious about what I could do, because I was starting to get, my chest was starting to pop out a little bit, and I didn't really like that at the time.
And you're in middle school still?
Oh, I was in middle school, so it was, and people will talk behind your back. That's just how people are in this day and age.
Did you confide in friends, family, or did you kind of keep it in? Or?
No, I wouldn't really express my feelings as far as that. I felt, I put myself there So
Okay.
I'd be the only one to get myself out of it.
Okay.
And from a young age, I've learned that independence is probably the best thing that you could do for yourself. If you're independent, you could achieve the world. But if you have to rely on others for your success, you're not gonna win very much, if that makes sense. So independence is key in this.
I love that.
And that was mainly from my dad, independent person, just kind of taught me the right ways, and I kind of put a spin off on it. But going into 8th grade year, and my weight just increased. From 6th grade, I was 190. 7th grade, I went up to 200. 8th grade, I was maybe 210. And we'd go on these little doctor visits, and every single time she just backlashed me, oh, your weight's too much, So it got to the point where I didn't even want to go to the doctor's office, because every time I went in there, they'd tell me the same thing. And it got to the point too where I'd be lying about my weight to my parents. Not that they knew that, but they'd be like, hop on the scale, and I'm like, nah, bro, because I was ashamed of it. I'd be the first to tell you. But
And let me interject, if you don't mind, really quick, Jake. Did the doctor offer you help and a solution on how to get the weight off?
So she did in like a grade 1 level, if we want to like do this, like she said, like, you eat these, eat that, don't eat that. And 95% of the things was like, I don't want to eat, it wasn't good. I didn't know how to cook either, so I was put at a loss. But she offered little tips and tricks, I guess you'd want to call it, but nothing ever stuck. And I'd always come home with these big old packets, and it would be the same thing. Go to the doctors, get nagged at for 20 minutes, like not want to go to the doctors at all, even though they're supposed to be helping you, and then come home and I'd be in the same little loop. So it was a reoccurring event, and it got to the point where I didn't even want to go to the doctors anymore, because it was the same trip.
Yeah.
And my mom, shout out to her, but she'd buy into what the doctor was saying, and then they'd be both like, yeah, you need to do this, you need to do that. So I was just put at a loss at that point in time. And so 225 8 going into freshman year.
225?
No, 220. Like
220.
220 pounds, 5'8", going into freshman year of high school.
Okay.
So high school it can be a brutal place, or it can be like where you're just on like that midline where nobody's gonna talk to you, nobody's gonna mess with you. So it's kind of like you just thrown in the water and see what's going to happen to you. You're not sure if, you're going to succeed or not. So I had high hopes going into freshman year.
Good.
That I was going to do something with my football career.
Okay. And you've been doing sports this whole time?
Whole time, yep. Been doing sports.
Never were you ever not in sports?
No, and I was always starting too. Like, from a young age, I was always on the field. I never came off the field. Whether that came to basketball, even if I couldn't keep up with other kids, I still was playing. And baseball, always playing. Didn't matter how big I was. And I kind of relied on sports to bring me a little bit of happiness in my life. When you're that, when you're overweight, it can either break you and make you depressed, or you kind of just find other things to turn your, like, get a new look on, I guess you would say, or a different look to kind of help you not be as depressed, if that makes sense. A little complicated.
Different outlook.
So I would always rely on sports, and that's all I had, sports and family. I didn't have very many friends. I wasn't the very popular kid in high school, mainly because I was big, and that was, kind of sad at the time, but look back at it now, you don't really need anybody. Independence.
I love it.
So that's, I was relying on sports and really good at sports, and that's kind of how everybody knew me, is because I was good at sports. But aside from that, I was basically a nobody to everybody else, which again didn't matter to me now, but back then it was a little sting.
It mattered to you.
Back then it was.
Again, to interject, if you don't mind, did you talk to anybody back then about that?
No, my
your
feelings.
Your mom, your dad, your sister.
I didn't feel like it was in my place, because they tell me the same thing: work out, eat better, this and that, and they bulletin. So I was like, how do I change what I've done to myself? Because again, there's nobody to blame for this but yourself. You gotta look at yourself and take accountability and credibility for what you've done. And they couldn't help me. They weren't in no position to help me in the way that I needed to be helped. So that's why I'd rely on sports. And again, I was always hanging out with my GMA, so that didn't really help, because it was just same little cycle. Yeah, so
yeah, I get it.
Sports.
I wish I knew you back then.
Yeah, sports definitely kept me in the loop. But then fast forward, going into freshman year of high school, high hopes for football, coming out for the football team, this 5'8", 220-pound quarterback trying to go play tackle football freshman year, and everything was good. Basically what you do is you start off and you go to a little training camp, or I guess what it was, in summer, so that they kind of see what they got as far as talent-wise. And everything was going good because for how big I was, I do give a pat on the shoulder. They did say I was pretty athletic. Nobody at 220 should be moving like that, especially if you're 5'8". So I do give a pat on the back for that. But basically what it came down to was me and this other kid who had recently played back in junior tackle. And we'd always beat him, and we played a little game at the end, and we ended up winning. But it came down to me and him, and they ended up taking him over me because they said he was a better fit as far as what they were doing with the offense, which, again, I look back at it now, I was in no order to order a team just because of my weight and all of that. But the little stinger that got me was the coach pulled me aside one day after practice, and he kind of came at me and was like, "You're a very athletic kid. You have potential, but we're not going to start you because we don't think you're good enough to be a quarterback at this school. You're too big. You're not fast enough. You can't throw the ball far enough. Just this list of you're not good enough." And it was very condescending. And he was just taking shots. And this went on for maybe 10 minutes. He said the same thing. You're just not good enough. Was anybody
around?
No, it was just me and him. He pulled me aside.
Okay.
And just taking shots one after another. So then I kind of went home that day, and I kind of sat down for a minute and looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I've done everything up until this point. I was number one, and now I'm number two. And I went through that whole season just sitting on the bench. It was awful. I was depressed. So
after this, he benched you?
Yeah, this was like a week before our first game, and he's like, "Yeah, you're not gonna play. Okay. You're not the guy."
Okay.
So then that was just kind of like the little, that was kind of like the last straw. We played the full season. I didn't touch the field one bit, and everybody was coming up. Even if they just moved me somewhere else, even just played me, because I was good at the sport, but the position I wanted to play, I guess I just wasn't the guy. That's what he had told me. And we fast forward that season, going into our sophomore season. COVID happens, and that was when I really started looking into, because we didn't have no school, everything was out. We were at home 24/7, and I was still 220. 5'10" now, so not really big change, and I was doing the same thing, just eating bad foods. And again, I didn't know why my weight wouldn't go down, and I was still dreading going to see the doctors. So we go sophomore year, everything gets canceled. Our end of freshman year, everything gets canceled. Going into our sophomore year that summer, I really started looking up like nutrition and like working out. That was kind of like my main thing, was working out and nutrition. But from what I got from that, my brother did this thing called intermittent fasting, and I kind of researched a little bit. I don't know if you can help me out on this, but basically what it is you wait a certain amount of time and you don't eat, and then you eat food, and then you wait another certain amount of time, so you don't eat as much food, you burn more calories than you take in. Is that kind of what it?
Yeah, and it's because the eating window is shorter.
Yeah.
And there's different fasts. There's like the warrior fast, which is 20 hours of fasting and 4 hours of eating.
So I kind of took that from him, but I took it to an extreme, and I think that hurt my body ultimately. I was going, and I just wanted to lose weight so bad. That was my main goal, And when you get into high school, you start talking to girls and football, and there's just these bunch of things, and I didn't have these things when I was younger like all these other kids did. So when I got into high school, that's just a different it's a different opportunity. And I'm not going to say that my weight loss journey was because of that. It was because of football, and it was because of the doubters out there that said I couldn't do it. But they ended up being a product of, getting my goals in that. But so I started intermittent fasting. but I didn't do it the right way. I was eating dinner to dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't eat all day. I'd eat
Mm-hmm.
one meal at dinner, and then I wouldn't stop eating, and I would do it again. And I did this for I think I did it for 3 months, and I started losing weight. I started losing weight, and each day I would lose weight. This is a good sign. This is a good sign. This is a good sign. So I was 5'10", 220, dropped all the way down to 5'10", 160 in, I'd say, 5 months, not eating. And when I'd eat, I noticed that one meal I'd eat, because I would eat I'd eat something big. I wouldn't eat a healthy meal. I'd eat something just like a burger and
Mm-hmm.
something big, something not high in calories.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed every time I'd eat, I'd be at 160, and then I'd eat, and I'd be at 165, or I'd be at 161, and then I'd go up to 167. So the weight fluctuation was just ridiculous, and I was like, why is this? After I eat, I don't look good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all bloated, So I was like, what? Why? If I lost all this weight, I should be good.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into the doctors again, and this was kind of like my little hoorah, because they didn't sit there and shoot shots at me anymore. They're like, oh wow, look at what you did, you turned this in. But I was 160 pounds, I was skin and bone, so I'm trying to turn this around. So now I was really, really big, and now I'm really, really skinny, so I'm trying to find that happy medium line. But every time I eat, I go up 7 pounds. So it was just, I don't know, I was lost again after losing that weight.
That's where you were when I met you.
Yeah, and that's when I met Melissa. And I went over to her house. I remember I went over to her house one day, and we started talking about nutrition. And I was telling her that I was only eating one meal a day, and then she kept telling me, you got to eat more, you got to eat more, you got to eat more. And I did start doing that after I had a conversation with her, but I noticed my weight was going up because I wasn't eating the right foods. I was eating more. I took what you were saying, but I didn't take it in the way that you meant it.
Mm-hmm.
So my weight started going up, so then I cut off of the eating more, and then I went back to one meal, and I was like, what am I doing wrong?
Mm-hmm.
So I was lost again.
Mm-hmm.
And this was all in just one summer, going into my sophomore year. And eventually, once I started going back to school, I started figuring out the right foods to eat, because I was trying to figure out the right, I guess you'd say, equation to where you can eat food, build muscle, and still, be lean and fast, and all the things that everybody's trying to get to. I was trying to figure out, but I was young, so you're not really that disciplined when you're young. You're gonna go eat ice cream and all these little things. You're not gonna take it that serious. But when somebody tells you can't do something, that lights a little fire under your butt sometimes, and it'll get you to where you're trying to get to be.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward, going end of summer, I'm 170 pounds, maybe going to my sophomore year. And that's when I ended up getting the starting spot. Finally, the coaches thought I was good enough, and I had a different set of coaches at the time, and ended up beating the same kid out that beat me out freshman year. And game 3, I ended up breaking my arm, so my season was done. And all that hard work kind of just went down the drain. So there was maybe a month in there I was a little depressed because I couldn't work out either, so I couldn't take out my anger on anything. I just sit at home and go to the games and watch them. And it was just sophomore year was a little depressing at the beginning, and it was COVID year still, so I didn't go to school. I was doing full online, trying to figure out how to get bigger, get stronger, get faster, but also look good, because at the time I was thinking if you get bigger, you're not going to look good. If you stay smaller, you're going to look good. I didn't really know that you could get biceps and a big chest and big legs and look good. I thought you got to be skinny to look good, so that was kind of my outlook on it, and stayed at home doing homework, going to the gym, this and that. And I think after that, I stayed at maybe 180 pounds. And then my junior year, before then, I had met with Melissa again, and she kind of went over the nutrition as far as that. We did the little prep thing, and I think I was maybe 182 pounds. And I had a little bit of muscle before then, but end of sophomore year, I was 170 pounds, and I started working out, and I started actually taking time to prep food, good foods, with your protein, your carbs, veggies, all of that stuff. But it was like, it was, I guess you'd say like the hardcore version. Like you have more variety in your cooking that I see now, but it was mainly like chicken, rice, broccoli, or maybe chicken, half a potato, just.
Which is great. It's like a bodybuilding style.
Yeah.
It's like whatever works for you. Just that you're prepping whole food. And you can understand why bodybuilders do that because it's simple.
Yeah.
You're busy, you're going to school, you're training. Like for you, it makes total sense to just bulk prep protein and so.
Yeah. So, but it gets to a point where sometimes that food starts tasting a little bland and, you do want to switch it up sometimes, but I started putting on muscle. And beginning of junior year, that's when everybody started noticing, this kid, he's starting to get pretty big, right? But I still had hopes that I was going to be a quarterback junior year. And that was, again, round 2 of this. They said, you're not good enough. We don't think you can be a quarterback at this level. You'd be a great fit somewhere else. This and that, just basically you're not good enough. So I put in.
So they're still saying this to you?
Yeah, still saying this.
Junior year? Same person?
No, different person. This is the head coach now.
Okay.
So sophomore year I was good, but then I broke my arm, so they didn't really get to see me. But now I'm going into junior year, and it's like just a repeat of freshman year. But this time I'm actually fast. I'm skinny. I got some muscle on me. Like I don't know what the issue is, and I'm good at football. I just, I guess it just didn't seem like that to them. So I ended up sitting my first 7 games. And meanwhile, this whole time, I'm just angry, working out all the time, trying to figure out a way to show these coaches that I am worth something at this program, that I can make an impact on this program. So fast forward 7 games. I remember this practice right before game. I think it was right before the Friday we're going to play Lakeland. We had a little walkthrough practice. And the practice before then was like a full padded 11 on 11 just to, get some pops in. And I remember that practice because right before then, Coach Bennett pulled me aside like 20 minutes before that practice and was like, yeah, so basically we don't think you're going to play this week. We're going to try out this other kid. And this other kid hadn't even been playing that position. So I was like, okay, so what's going on here? And I went out, and I was just angry, and I remember I just started hitting these kids. They put me on the little scout team that we had, and I just started hitting kids, doing good, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, so this kid can play. And he's like, oh, maybe you do want to play on Friday night. So then I went over to a little team dinner thing. Coach McCune was like, yeah, we're going to put you at running back. We're going to try you out. And then from that point on, I just took off. And the very next week, they put me at starting running back. So now I was a starter. So how do you go from getting told you're not good enough to being a starter now, going out, carrying the football 30 times a game? Like, they didn't trust you to go in and play. Now they trust you to carry the ball 30 times. So how does that work, right? So played those full games, broke a couple records that year I think I played 6 games total, and the other starter had 7 games on me, and I still ended up beating him out for yards and carries and all the statistics. I ended up beating him out, and he played the full season, and I played half a season. So, got the little awards at the end, but I don't know. I was still trying to figure out how to, and I didn't quite click to me what I wanted to do as far as football and schooling and all of that. Like, I love playing football, but I didn't have an idea. And, you see all these kids going off to college playing college football, and they're big kids. Like, they don't look like kids. They're men. They look like men. So then I'm trying to figure out how to make myself look like that, balance school and play football. So it was just, I don't know. It was hard to keep up at times. And we finished junior season, and, it was good for me because I showed them basically that I am good enough to play this sport and I can compete with anybody in the state of Idaho. And then, I worked out all off season. I was trying to get my body to be built like a running back because at the time I was still skinny. I was kind of lengthy for 5'10", but I didn't quite have that running back build. I was fast last year, our junior year, so that's why I kind of made it work, and I could hit people because I was big, but I wasn't how I am today. But my senior year, I was still thinking, hey, I'm gonna go out and be a quarterback. I'm gonna be a quarterback. But the difference between this is I trained like a running back, so I was trying to my benching, my squats, your deadlifts. Like I was doing all these, I don't know if you want to call them powerlifting exercises, but more or less like that those type of workouts, basically. So I was trying to get as big as I possibly could, but also maintain my speed and all of that. So jumping into senior year, 195 pounds. I think you got me in at like 12% body fat. I think that was the lowest I was at. And now this year I have the option to be the starting quarterback or the starting running back. So now everything's in my hands. Whatever I say I want to do, I'm going to do it. And I was thinking about this one time right before our first game. Like, how does somebody like me come from being this short, little, chubby kid to getting to tell the coaches, hey, I'm going to play this position today and I'm going to play that position tomorrow. Just, getting to tell them whatever you'd want to do. And it was a so real moment for me thinking about that one time after practice, because I was like, how does this happen to a kid? And, basically all it was perseverance and consistency. And, you can apply those two things to your everyday lifestyle as far as if you're trying to lose weight or, whatever your goals are. Consistency and perseverance are probably the two best life skills you could have. And there's a coach I was working out with, Coach Ludwig, really good guy. He was a coach or weightlifting coach at Purdue. His track record's off the books. Really good guy. And he kind of we'd have little life talks with them after our weightlifting sessions, and he kind of sat me down and was like, from what you've come, because I guess there's a photo of me at River City of when I was short and stubby, so they brought that in as a little joke and they put it on the wall. And I walked in one day for workouts and he's like, who's this kid? And I looked at it, I was oblivious of it, and I was like, oh, that's me, coach. And he's like, no shot, that's not you. So he just started cracking jokes on me, and we had a little conversation about perseverance. And
were you mad or?
No, they were joking with me. So I looked the way I am, a little smaller a little bigger beginning of senior year, so I just thought it was a joke. When you reach your goals, all of the past and all of that stuff doesn't really faze you or anything. Now, when that's you, like when that is you and the past is you, everything, they'll joke about your weight, you'll get a little sensitive towards it. But to where I'm at now and where I was, it's just jokes now. So I can kind of take the heat a little bit. But we were talking about the perseverance, and he said, I've never met a kid that's went from where you were and being told what you have to now you can do whatever you want. Whatever you want to do, the coaches will do. And, they have that trust in you. And so I thought that was a good little moment. I kind of kept that with me for a while, just to be very perseverance and, don't listen to what people tell you. If
awesome.
You got goals, go out and achieve them, but don't rely on anybody to achieve them. It's an independent battle.
That's awesome.
And, so senior year went good for me. Ended up making history, going 3-0, outright league champs.
Nice.
First round of playoffs didn't end the way we wanted to. I ended up breaking more records this year. I think I got like the single most yards in a game.
Wow. I
was averaging 3 touchdowns a game, and we were only getting about 4 touchdowns, like all offense. So,
wow.
I produced a lot. I was trying to produce a lot as much as I could, because I decided to be a running back. I told them I wanted to be a running back because I thought it would be better for, my future in football, and gave the rock to a sophomore and just let him kind of give me the ball a little bit, throw me the ball, and, make plays when he could. But it was mainly just me a little bit this year. And shout out to all my teammates, but that's kind of what the offense was this year, and it was fun. it ended really fast, and it didn't end the way we wanted it to in the first round of playoffs. But
why didn't it end the way you wanted it to?
I mean, everybody wants to win a state title, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of just that's kind of what you want to do in high school football. And we had a very good shot. Our defense was solid this year, probably the best defense that ever come through Post Falls, and our offense was pretty solid too. We held our own.
But looking what you said about making history in the records,
Yeah.
how many people have played football? I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
How many people have, been out on that field and you've set records?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I like it's nice to have your name on a wall and this and that, but, realistically, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just another name on the wall, and there's going to be more kids that come through. So it was a good moment at the end of the season to kind of get some recognition for what I've done, because, most people don't know that I was some chubby kid that didn't play and didn't do none of this. They just know me as, Busto now. That's all they know of. They only know my image now. They didn't know what I had come from and what I had to go through and what I've been told. So they kind of only get this, this one face story, or, so.
Don't you think the story and the journey is really important?
I do. I've thought about this too. If I could go back and change everything to be this perfect little story, I don't think I would.
I feel the same way about my weight loss journey, and
yeah,
I always tell people, if you don't enjoy the journey, you'll never get to the destination.
Exactly.
So the fact that you can look back on this, but you're a great, don't you agree, Josh? You're a great speaker, and I love that you're telling this story. I think it's super important in so many different ways. But I had notes here, but we probably won't need them. But when you're done, Jake, I'm going to touch on some things. But you're doing such a great job of, I swear he memorized my questions, but you're doing such a great job of giving an outsider looking in that, like you said, just knows you as Busto.
Yeah. So
continue. Just keep taking us through to where you're at today, and then we'll kind of touch on some questions.
So, everybody, like I said, everybody knows me as Busto now, living a good life. Like I said a little bit ago, the girls and all of that, it's kind of just come full-fledged senior year, so I'm not really having no issues as far as that, as far as football. Everything's going good.
And you're graduated?
I'm getting ready to graduate.
Oh, you're getting
ready to graduate.
Okay.
Got to finish out my senior year, still in school.
Okay. What does training look like for you in the off season?
So.
You still got your foot on the gas?
Oh, yeah. Because then you get to college, it's a whole nother level. So I'll start out, we'll go to school, and then I'll go to the gym usually after school and do some stretching, foam rolling, usually hit a sauna session. Just some like calisthenics type of workouts, because then 6 to 7:30 we'll go to the high school and we'll lift with Coach Ludwig, and he has that college experience, so he'll put college workouts from Division I programs on the board, and that's what we'll work out at. So
you'll do that tonight?
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
I like it.
But as far as all the weightlifting and all the success and all of that, last thing to say is nutrition. If I could go back in time, nutrition would be the only thing that I would change. I think what I've come from, all of that, all the ups and downs, I think that's what's molded me as a person. And I think that the people that can stick with it, overcome, and achieve, I think those are the strongest people, and those are the people that you usually want in your corner or want to be around, like-minded people, like Melissa, like when we went on that little hike. But I think that's what molded me. But as far as nutrition, I don't think you can get anywhere in your goals or in where you're trying to get at. I don't think you can get anywhere if you're not eating right. That's got to be your number one focus. And you don't have to work out crazy as long as you're eating right. You can maintain as long as you eat right. But the minute you stop eating right, it's kind of where you start having problems.
Food is fuel.
Yeah.
So you want to do questions, and then we'll kind of end with what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah? Sure? Yeah. Okay. So, good. Josh, I knew you would like this one. Josh is into sports, so. Okay, so one of my questions was, did you know how to lose weight? And you already answered that. And the one
Didn't.
thing that I will tell you is it's not something that's taught. I've worked with thousands of people, and the one thing that I tell people is don't feel bad because you don't know. It wasn't taught in school. Your parents don't know how to help you.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to put this out there. Most doctors don't know how to help you. I've got 20 years of knowledge, and I always tell people that your greatest wealth is your health. And like you reach out for coach, for support, you reach out for counsel. Why is it that people can't reach out for counsel for nutrition? Like you said, you ended with that. You said that is the one thing that you would have changed. Isn't it crazy that people are afraid to, it's like they feel bad that they need help, right?
And that is true. I'm sure you know it as well as anybody, like I do too. When you get to that type of point, it's hard to reach out for, like, because it's not something that you can just, hey, I'm trying to lose weight. Like, it sounds simple, but when you're in that moment and you are overweight or bigger and you try to go ask for help, it's tough. Because you start to get more self-conscious about yourself when realistically you don't need to be, but you get more self-conscious, and then you start, asking, like, well, what do I do? And it sometimes it can be like, I don't want to say humiliation, but it's just like, I did this to myself, and now I need to ask for your help because I did this to myself. So it's just, I don't know, it's a touchy subject.
I get it. So one thing I wanted to ask you is, when we met, I knew right away you weren't eating enough by the way that you looked.
Yeah.
Also, I got a little insight from your dad, who was worried about you. How did you feel about, I'm really careful because I work with bulimics, anorexics to the morbidly obese. I'm very careful about what I say to people and how I talk to people, and I hope that it's received well. How did you feel about me telling you? I know it was probably mortifying and scary, but how did you feel when I told you that it's exactly the opposite of what you think and that you should eat more?
I like, when you told me that, I like to take in information. I like taking in new information. I like learning about a lot of things. I think knowledge is a very important key in living. So when you kind of told me, like, you need to eat more, I kind of just took it in and, assessed the situation with what you were telling me, and, kind of, I don't want to say, like, I just took in the information you were giving me, and I tried to apply it, and I did apply it for a little bit until I didn't get the full picture. I got half a picture of what you were telling me. So, I guess just kind of take in all of the information, make sure you're getting a clear picture of what you're trying to do, if that makes sense. Yeah.
If you could give advice to anyone who wants to build muscle and lose body fat, which if you're watching or listening out, if you're out there, it's strategic. It's easy to lose weight.
Yeah.
But to lose weight,
Put on muscle.
Yeah. What advice would you give people?
You got to be consistent. Now, everybody be saying, consistency, nutrition, this and that to build muscle, but it's really a battle within yourself and your goals. You got to have something. You don't always have to have something to fuel your goals or what you're trying to get to, but you got to have enough inside of you to achieve those goals. So being consistent is probably like the number one thing you could do. And again, not caring what other people tell you can or can't do. Kind of go off on your own path. And if you're hanging around with people like that, you should, again, assess the situation and, find those like-minded people that are got the same goals as you. Maybe you can relate to somebody else. But consistency is definitely the number one thing.
Well, I think you eat consistency for lunch.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that to a lot of people. The obesity rate, morbidly obese and overweight percentage is 70% post-COVID.
Yeah.
We are a minority. It's harder for you and I to find our tribe than the other people. That's what's so crazy. So when I do find someone like Jake, I just latch right onto him. And you, for your age, you were really, like, you were a self-starter. You researched. You did a lot of, I mean, and your trial and error stuff, I mean, I look at that as, it's awesome. It's part of your journey. I mean, you know, you never fail, you only learn, right? Like, you tried the intermittent fasting. That didn't work for you. You tried under eating. That didn't work for you. You tried eating more but not the same food. That didn't work for you. And then it brought to where you're at today. So, so when we went on that hike together and you told that story, that really stuck with me. Yeah. Just because the same thing kind of happened to me when I was younger. I don't know if I told you the story when we were hiking. When my husband and I opened our coffee stand, somebody pulled over. I've talked about this many times, and it's kind of been the driving force of my life. They pulled over, and they got out of their car and asked me if I really thought I was going to make it on that corner. How would that sit with you? Yeah. I mean, I'm 27 years old, just quit my waitressing job. I've got all cards in on this. I've got 2 credit cards of, you know, maxed out with I mean, my chips are in. Yeah. Like, you know what that feels like, right? Yeah. And to this day, that woman is in the forefront of my mind, just like that coach is to you. Yeah. And I turned it into a positive, and so did you. Like, I was like, you know what? If I could see that lady today, I would say, you know what? You don't want to brag, but you really kind of want to say, like, not only, look at me now. Yeah. I own half the street. I'm now a real estate investor. Yeah. You know, you don't want to brag, but to that person, I do want to brag. Like, you're not very boastful, but once in a while, you just got to throw it out, right?
I get what you're saying, yeah. I think at times it is nice to kind of, you know, maybe walk past them, like, you know, look at me now, but I think silence... For me, silence was the best option. If you work in silence and do things in silence and you don't voice what you're doing or this and that, I think you'll be doing just fine.
Yeah, and I've told Josh, I am probably more. I probably speak my goals and dreams a little bit more out loud than you do, but I respect your style. I think I'm kind of more of a manifester, but I respect your style. Josh is a lot like you, right, Josh? Like, you know, he'll be working on something for a year and then he'll show it to me and I'm like, what? Yeah. Why didn't you tell me? Yeah. But it takes a special person to just work in silence, persevere and show. Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to tell you guys is the physique that Jake used to have compared to now is absolutely mind-blowing. Him and his friend Cole, right? Yeah. Came to my house this summer to use the jet skis, and I about died. I mean, you look so fit, strong, like a man, like a football player, both of you guys. Like, if I knew nothing about you and I saw you walking down the road, I would see hard work. That doesn't happen overnight at your age, you know. I mean, I was kind of makes me choked up, but I'm so proud of you and how far you've come, and you've really just
I appreciate that. I do. But now you know the full story.
I love it.
I don't know the full story.
I got bits and pieces. So and I think that there's so many things, and you can probably chime in, Josh, that people can take out of this. I mean, some people that are dealing with self-confidence issues can get something out of this interview. People that are dealing with food issues can get something out of this interview. Right, Josh? Yeah. Wouldn't you agree? There's just so many aspects. And the one thing you said, I totally agree, is people say losing weight is one of the hardest things you can do. One of the wealthiest women in the world, Oprah Winfrey, who represents Weight Watchers, still isn't at her goal weight. And if you can do that, what else can you do? Like what you said is so spot on. Like all the fundamentals that you used to get the physique you have today,
Yeah.
like where could you put that?
As far as like my goals and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Like, don't you agree? You just take those same things and you can do, I mean, because you've got your confidence.
Yeah. To kind of pick up what you're putting down a little bit, you mean as far as like you meet your goals, or like you're trying to get in more,
Like all the strategies that you used in like working in silence and just pushing and getting to where you're at now.
Yeah.
Like if you can do this, what else can you do? And why would you be scared now? Like, do you see what I mean? Do you feel like you were saying that, how did I go from this to this?
Yeah.
But are you kind of getting a little bit where you feel confident enough to, wow, if I accomplish this,
what else can I get?
what else can I do? Like, does it kind of flow into keeping you climbing up that mountain?
Yeah, so it does. I was watching another podcast or a little speech thing that Matthew McConaughey was saying about how you should have goals, and when you achieve those goals, set another goal or push that goal back. So me right now, I have not met my dream body or my goal, my goal weight, my goal body percentage. I'm still trying to work. I don't look bad now, but I think when you get to this point, that the sky's the limit type of saying is really going to apply to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because now what else can you achieve?
Mm-hmm.
The sky is the limit, and everybody that says that they're at their dream body or they're at their this, they're at their that, that can be true, but how long did it take them to do it? That's what you have to, that's kind of what you have to look at. So as far as me right now and what else I'm trying to achieve, I'm kind of uncertain at the moment as far as that. Obviously, I do want to get bigger and run faster, but that's only going to come with time, if that answers your question.
Yeah. So where are you now as far as football goes? What's your, you said, maybe what you said answered that, but do you kind of have a plan? Are you still kind of finding your way, or?
I'm still finding my way. I thought that to have the senior season I did and kind of put, help put Post Falls on the map as far as a football program. I thought that was going to bring in some schools, and I kind of shot myself in the foot a little bit as far as recruiting, because when you get your film, you're supposed to send it out right away, and that wasn't necessarily the case, because after we lost to Rocky, there was like a week in there that I was kind of just like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to go to the gym and do what I got to do. But as far as going D1, that's kind of down the drain for right now, unless I want to go do a spring walk on at Eastern Washington. I'm in contact with Central Washington, and I have a couple offers from NAIA schools, but my goal's always been to play at the highest level possible, and I think D2 might be the spot for me as far as my next stages of life in football. As far as that's kind of all that's on my mind right now.
Well, I think that this interview is a good interview for you to, we put it on YouTube. I think that anybody that's, you're trying out for should watch this, because it really, it gives a real insight into who you are.
Yeah.
And it matters how you play, but it also matters who you are. And the way you are with your teammates, and your dad was telling me you always kind of get everybody going. I mean, that's super important. Wouldn't you agree, Josh?
Yeah.
Like to be a team player and just have really good character and good morals and values, I think really matters. So, what keeps you going every day? Like you said you're 17. You could get up and hit the snooze button, go to McDonald's, watch Netflix, play games. What keeps you going every day?
The doubters.
I love it.
People that tell you can't do something. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. Again, from a young age, I've learned that you're not always going to get that, hey, good job, that pat on the back, you're doing great. You got to go through every day like nobody's there. You're not going to get that pat on the back. You're not going to get the, hey, you're doing really good today. You got to be able to go on a day-to-day basis without compliments or without that good job. So, again, going back to being independent, the doubters kind of helped me get to where I'm at. So all the people that said I couldn't do anything, I do, I applaud them. I thank them because they got me to be the man I am today, or the person that I am today. But I can forgive what they've said, but I definitely won't forget what they've said. Okay. So that gets me out of bed in the morning, just trying to be the best person I can, be the best version of myself.
That's awesome. The one thing that I always tell Josh is I've got so many no's in my life. And I, at first, hated no's, and I'm sure you did too. But now I'm not afraid of a no. But man, when that yes comes, I'm kicking that door open. Yeah. So it's you've got so many good qualities for such a young man. Okay, so tell me about, do you consider yourself a leader? If so, what do you do to be a leader?
I do consider myself a leader, but not in the way many of y'all would think a leader is. Again, I don't like to voice my opinions or point fingers at people. If you want help, I'll help you. I'll do anything for anybody as long as they ask. But I'm not the type of person to sit there and point fingers when it's not needed. Again, working in silence, not telling people what you're doing. I think that's the best way to achieve your goals.
I love it.
So I can be a leader when need be.
I love it.
But I wouldn't classify myself as a leader just because, in my eyes, a leader is somebody that's going to sit there and take charge, and I will take charge when need be. But from what I've come through, I think everything's an individual battle. So, if you can control yourself and control your ship, then I think you'll be doing just fine.
Love it. Great answer. Tell me about your support team. Who are your biggest cheerleaders?
Shout out to my G-Mom, one of my biggest supporters.
Who goes to the games?
All the games.
And how old is she?
I think she's 86.
Love it.
So she's always been there for me. My mom and dad, obviously. My sister is a big supporter. Melissa's a big supporter. She's helped me out in my journey, trying to figure out, nutrition and all of that. She's been a big help. And then I also give a shout out to Coach Ludwig, who's been a solid coach as well as a mentor in my life.
That's
I think.
Awesome. That's great. I always tell Josh, it's like, I tell my clients this all the time. It's like, all we need is one person to believe in us, right? We don't need 25 cheerleaders, just one, right? Just one person that says you can do it. I love it. Okay, so anything you would like to add? Anything you've been thinking about that you wanted to say? Well, why did you agree to do this interview?
I'll be listening to a lot of podcasts, so getting the opportunity to be on one, because, everybody talks about weight loss and this and that, they've all got their own spin-off on it, and everybody's got their own stories, not to knock down anything that anybody's done. But, I feel like the more unique stories out there, maybe I could help one person. If I could help one person lose weight, I feel like that's a W in my book, so only time will tell.
Yeah, I think you're going to help a lot more people than that. So, like you said, most people that see you just know you.
Yeah, they don't know the backstory.
I love a good story. And I think that you and I are probably drawn to podcasts because people are telling stories, right?
Yeah.
It's like you look at Matthew McConaughey, and we only know him as a famous, wealthy
actor.
But once they start digging in, it's like they're real.
Yeah.
They've been through the trenches. They've struggled with. One thing that I was going to tell you, I don't know if you ever struggle with this, but do you ever struggle with self-doubt?
When I was younger, I did. For like a week. I remember there was a week when I was younger, I was like, yeah, this isn't going to happen, this and that, this, But then I watched the podcast, and it was about weight loss, and they were basically like, you know, you are the king of your kingdom, and you can do with whatever you want, but you've got to have enough within yourself in order to do that. So if you want to lose weight, go for it. Nobody's going to tell you no. Nobody's going to stop you. You own that. But you got to be willing to put in the work and the effort and time in order to do that. It's not just going to come to you with, you know, in the snap of your fingers. It's something that you're going to have to work for. And if you want it bad enough, then you'll achieve it. And everybody says that you want it bad enough, you'll achieve it. But it's actually true. You got to have that want within inside yourself.
Time and patience.
Yeah.
A lot of people, also, you know, everybody wants it yesterday now. It's always like, how long did it take you to get in this position?
Yeah.
You know? Like, I'd like to tell you that you can all take a pill or liquid gold, but the only way is to just roll up your sleeves. Once and for all, learn how to cook your own food, learn how to take care of yourself. So for a while there, and it might have changed now, your dad told me you had no girlfriends, you weren't on social media. Did you feel like you kind of needed to just put your blinders on to achieve what you wanted to?
Yeah, the way I looked at it, and I still do now in certain times, but girls and social media is the worst thing to look at, especially when you're trying to lose weight, because there's always those videos on there of these really ripped guys showing you what they've achieved, this and that. So it's really like it kind of just I don't want to say condescends, it kind of just lowers your self-esteem, I guess you'd say.
Absolutely.
Because you see what these guys have and what these guys have and what they look like and what they look like, and then you look at yourself and you're like, wow. So it just kind of like I don't know, it was just not a good thing to have at that time when I was trying to achieve those goals. And to be honest, you know, what's on social media that you need to see every single day? That's something you can live without.
Yeah. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, and then as far as the girls, that was just a distraction, to be honest. You know, I saw all my friends were getting girlfriends, and I was again looking at myself, trying to see like what's the issue. But then it got to the point where you don't need a girlfriend in order to achieve your goals. It's not gonna help you.
Yeah.
So why do you need it? You know what I'm saying?
I love it, and it is really hard. I mean, you'll hear entrepreneurs say that, you know, in order to be successful, just using this as an example, you really need to just drop off the map for like a year. And I think that there's something to be said for that. And, you know, a friend of mine, if you're listening to this, you know who you are. A lot of times she'll say 90% of the time when I ask you to do something during the work week, you say no. You know why.
Yeah.
You know why.
Yeah.
Josh knows why.
Yeah.
We have a mission.
Yeah.
We are going to accomplish it. Just so I can prove to that doubter.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's no question. Like, no comes to my tongue so quicker than probably most people. Because I'm not okay with being average. I don't want to be average. I want to be above average.
Exactly.
And I say this to myself a lot. I say it out loud on my Facebook Lives. When it comes to weight loss, if you eat like them, you will look like them.
Yeah.
If you work like them, you'll have the bank account that they have.
Exactly.
On the entrepreneurial side, and that's why 90% of the time, it's a hard no.
Yeah.
Because I know what that's going to get me.
Exactly.
And kind of like with you. If you were doing everything everybody was doing in high school, partying and girlfriend,
where would I be at now?
Would you be sitting here with this physique?
Yeah.
Alcohol and fast food don't get this body.
Exactly.
So I'm proud of you for your age. You're so mature.
Thank you.
I think that the one thing I love about you the most is I feel like you're really secure with who you are. And most people at your age are really lost. And if you ever have self-doubt, always remember your successes. If you ever wake up, Jake, and you doubt yourself, if something happens to you and you get put on the bench, just remember your successes.
Yeah.
That's what I do. It's called imposter syndrome. You know, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs that have it, and you just got to remember, you know what? But I'm successful. How many people have I helped? Why am I helping you? But sometimes you do. You get in your own head. But I told your dad, this kid's going to the NFL.
That was my, ever since a young age, it's been my mission to be above average, like you said. I don't want to be just like the every normal day, 9 to 5, wake up, make $60,000 a year. I want to be part of that 1% that can maybe make $1 million or have a big bank account, be able to do what they want, not have to worry about money, or if you go out in public, not, just not have to worry about anything. And I'm still trying to figure that out just a little bit, but that's been my mission from a young age, and I'd say that's probably my long-term goal. Is, I want to be in that 1%, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be in that 1%. And that's kind of what you have to do. You got to be willing to roll with the punches, as they would say. But that's been my mission, is to be part of the 1% and make a decent living.
Yeah, I know you will. And I love your family dynamics. I mean, when we went to your game, by the way, the whole game, my friend was there, and she says, "Who are you watching?" And I said, "Jake Bustamante." And she goes, "I don't know who he is, but all I hear is, Bustamante." So you should be really proud of yourself.
Thank you.
We can brag about you, right? But
Thank
yes,
you.
I was very proud to know you and be your friend, and you had a huge support. I mean, so much of your family was there, and it's cool to see that they believe in you.
Yeah.
So. But you don't seem to be pressured by that. Like, it doesn't make you nervous, right? You seem confident out there. Or are you nervous? Really?
You gotta put on a little face sometimes.
Really?
Sometimes you'll be a little nervy, and you gotta kind of, sit down, get your bearings together, move on to the next play. But
but I love hearing the way that your mom and dad talk about you and your sister. She wouldn't miss a game, so it's really cool. You have a really special story, and I appreciate you sharing today. And thank you, everybody, for hanging with us today, whether you're listening or you're watching this on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you share this video, and when we load this up, Jake will give it to you so that you can share it with people. I think it'll be really interesting to have the people that were in your story listen to this too. So thanks for joining us today. I know you probably got to get out of here. Thanks, Josh, for filming us and being a part of this awesome interview.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, you say
any little kids out there that go through this little depression stage because people telling you can't do anything, this is just a product of that. Push through it, and I promise you will achieve your goals. I promise you that. But you got to be willing to work. That's the only thing. And if you can do that, you'll achieve your goals.
I love that. You're a good speaker. You should do. I mean, right, Josh? Like, we've done a lot of podcasts, and you didn't even need direction ever. There was never a pause. Do you get good grades in school too? Yeah.
Try to keep up.
Yeah, you should do some public speaking. I mean, and I feel like when you are on a stage, it's going to be so easy for you, Jake, because you're telling your story.
Yeah.
Our good friend Ben Tran, he did our logo, and he's very well known in the area for being one of the tops. He's done logos for what? Donald Trump, Frito-Lay, Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And Josh and I went and saw him speak, and he could have spoke about his successes as far as business goes. What did he tell us, Josh?
About his upcoming.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't think he ever mentioned his successes, did he?
Nope.
And that's honestly what people want to hear.
Yeah.
What's your story? What's your background? Like, we know he's successful.
Yeah.
But how did you get here?
Exactly.
So, I love it. Love your story. So, all right, you guys, thanks. High five. You did so awesome.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure because, God, when I was in school, I was terrified. I did a speech class and about died. But so thanks for sharing your story. It's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm going to thoroughly enjoy seeing you continue to climb to the top of that mountain. We're gonna think of a really awesome title to this, and a couple things that I wrote down was the part about you were talking about independence and things like that. Did you catch a couple things too, Josh? Yeah. So yeah, we'll have a really awesome title. Powerful words, very powerful. The perseverance, the consistency, I mean, super powerful words, which people really need to hear. So, all right, Jake, thanks for the interview.
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you guys on the next podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good day. Bye-bye.